Hey class, it's Miss Garcia. As I told you before, I'm out today doing planning. So, we're going to continue reading Metamorphosis. As you remember, we left off at the part where Gregor is laying in bed, losing track of time. He has his thoughts wandering about work, and how he dislikes his work so much. And we've realized that he is quite lonely and very unhappy. So we're going to go ahead and start on paragraph 7 on page 3. So it reads, he was still hurriedly thinking all this through, unable to decide to get out of bed, when the clock struck 7:15. There was a cautious knock at the door near his head. "Gregor," someone called. It was his mother. "It's 7:15. Didn't you want to go somewhere?" That gentle voice. Gregor was shocked when he heard his own voice answering. It could hardly be recognized as the voice he had had before. As if from deep inside him, there was a painful and uncontrollable squeaking mixed in with it. The words could be made out at first, but then there was a sort of echo which made them unclear, leaving the bearer unsure whether he had heard properly or not. Gregor had wanted to give a full answer and explain everything, but in the circumstances contented himself with saying, "Yes, mother, thank you. I'm getting up now." So we're going to go ahead and stop here and analyze this portion of paragraph 7. So let's look at that. So when it starts off, he was still hurriedly thinking all this through, unable to decide to get out of bed when the clock struck 7:15. This reinforces what we had talked about yesterday, that his thoughts are scattered and he continues to lose track of time. And if you notice, Kafka continues to talk about time. And that's really to emphasize how obsessed Gregor is with time. And you'll see later in the story that he really is obsessed with time. Now, notice I did underline Gregor, someone called. It was his mother. It's 7:15. Didn't you want to go somewhere? I actually found it quite odd that his mother doesn't ask him how he's doing and is more worried about him missing work. Um, as a mom myself, the first thing I would have asked my child if they had not gotten up like normal is, "Are you okay?" But she is basically saying, "Didn't you want to go somewhere?" So basically, don't you want to go to work? You're supposed to be at work taking care of our debts. And notice his thoughts to her statement. He says that gentle voice. That gentle voice really shows the care he has for his mother and actually indicates tenderness, which is the first sign of tenderness we've actually seen from Gregor. We know that he has taken care of his parents, but mostly out of duty. But by stating that gentle voice, it really does show a tender side to him. I've also highlighted as if deep inside him there was a painful and uncontrollable squeaking mixed in with it. Why do you think they're using the word painful? And why is it so important? What do you think it represents about Gregor? Is it just painful because he's trying to talk as a bug? Or might it indicate the emotions that he actually feels inside? And then finally, I did highlight the last sentence of Gregor had wanted to give a full answer and explain everything, but in the circumstances contented himself with saying, "Yes, mother, yes, thank you. I'm getting up now." So contented kind of means to be happy or okay with. And this is a strange response, seeing as he is literally been turned into a bug, but he's more concerned with making his mom feel okay about his current state, rather than worrying her. So again, he's showing here that he's not really thinking too much about his situation, but more about the people around him and what they think. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So the change in Gregor's voice probably could not be noticed outside through the door, as his mother was satisfied with this explanation and shuffled away. But this short conversation made the other members of the family aware that Gregor, against their expectations, was still at home, and soon his father came knocking at one of the side doors, gently but with his fist. "Gregor, Gregor," he called, "what's wrong?" After a short while he called again with a warning deepness in his voice. "Gregor! Gregor!" At the other side door, his sister came plaintively. Gregor, aren't you well? Don't you need anything? Gregor answered to both sides. I'm ready now, making an effort to remove all the strangeness from his voice by enunciating very carefully and putting long pauses between each individual word. His father went back to his breakfast, but his sister whispered, Gregor, open the door, I beg you. Gregor, however, had no thought of opening the door and instead congratulated himself for his cautious habit, acquired from his traveling, of locking all the doors at night, even when he was at home. So I definitely want you to underline anything that seems strange to you in this particular paragraph. We're going to analyze it after I finish paragraph 8 just to make it a little bit easier. So let's move on to paragraph 8. The first thing he wanted to do was to get up in peace without being disturbed, to get dressed, and most of all, to have his breakfast. Only then would he consider what to do next, as he was well aware that he would not bring his thoughts to any sensible conclusions by laying in bed. He remembered that he had often felt a slight pain in bed, perhaps caused by laying awkwardly, but that had always turned out to be pure imagination, and he wondered how his imaginings would slowly resolve themselves today. He did not have the slightest doubt that the change in his voice was nothing more than the first sign of a serious cold, which was an occupational hazard for traveling salesmen. So let's go ahead and analyze those two paragraphs because that's where we're going to end today. So going back to the top, it says his mother was satisfied with this explanation and shuffled away. I find this interesting because she doesn't ever ask, Are you okay? Do you need anything? She just accepts his answer and moves away. Um, and then I highlighted Gregor again. Their expectations was still at home, and soon his father came knocking. So I felt that this was not only indicative of who Gregor is. He follows duty, he follows routine. So anytime he strays from that routine, it seems strange to his family. But I also underlined expectations because that's a loaded word, right? I would like you to look up the word expectations and see what it means because it seems very strange that his family puts all these expectations on him, yet none of them are really taking any care towards him. Um, I underlined he called again with a warning deepness in his voice. Now, again, this is his father. And I underlined that because I want you to really think about what are these interactions indicating about his relationships with them. Um, his father is getting angry. Notice when he knocks on the door, he does so with his fist. It's not saying he taps on the door. He uses his fist. So it's almost like a bang. Like even though it's a gentle bang, it's still a bang. It's kind of asserting authority. And his father uses that deepness to call out to him, kind of to remind him, like, hey, you have to go to work. And we need to remember why Gregor is going to work. He's not going to work for himself to better himself or to make his life better. He's going to work to ensure that his parents are taken care of and that their debts are taken care of. These responses are quite different than when his sister knocks on the door on the other side door. His sister came plaintively, Gregor, aren't you well? Do you need anything? Notice this is the first time any of his family members shows any sort of concern towards him. His mother did not ask him how he was or if he needed anything. She asked if he needed to go to work. The father just simply called out his name, kind of indicating, hey, get up, you need to go. But the sister cares about Gregor. And so this is the first time we see somebody actually caring about him. After he gives the response to them, the father is like, fine, and he goes off to breakfast. He's fine with the matter as long as Gregor is getting up to go take care of his business, where the sister is not content with his response. Instead, she says, Gregor, open the door, I beg you. His sister senses something is wrong, which indicates that maybe she knows Gregor better than the rest of his family. And so I do want you to put on the side, again, their reactions to his replies. What do they indicate about their relationships and how they interact with each other? Notice I also highlighted Gregor, however, had no thought of opening the door and instead congratulated himself for his cautious habit, acquired from his traveling, of locking all doors at night, even when he was at home. So, what does this indicate about Gregor? Even when he's at home, he locks his door. Is it because he wants privacy? Or is it because he doesn't trust anybody? Could it be both? And he's very happy with himself that he's so cautious. So this tells us he's cautious all the time. But again, he's a bug. And he's congratulating himself on locking the door, which means nobody can get to him. And the question then becomes, can he also get out? It also begs the question, is he locking people out or himself in? So let's move on to paragraph 8. The first thing he wanted to do was get up in peace without being disturbed, to get dressed, and most of all, to have his breakfast. Now, this is a surreal moment because, again, he's a bug. And so I'm not sure how you could quite get up in peace without being disturbed when you're a gigantic bug. And get dressed. Would his clothes even fit him? It just seems a very odd thought and response to the situation that he's in. And then this is amplified when he says he could not bring his thoughts to any sensible conclusions by laying in bed. He wants to think sensibly, yet none of this situation is sensible. And even his reaction itself is not sensible. He's not panicking. He's not doing any of these things. He's just worried about following his routine, even though the routine makes him miserable. And then we end it with he remembered that he had often felt a slight pain in bed, perhaps caused by lying awkwardly, but that had always turned out to be pure imagination, and he wondered how his imaginings would slowly resolve themselves today. So I do want to know, do you think that this whole situation is his imaginings? Why or why not? And he seems to think that it's going to resolve themselves rather slowly. So is this why he's not concerned? He's woken up and he's a bug. And he's like, it's going to fix itself. What does that tell you about Gregor? Does he not take things seriously? Does he think it's all in his mind? Why is this not out of the ordinary? Has this happened before? And then I love that he says that it was nothing but a sign of a serious cold. Like a cold, really? Trying to reason away being a bug by a cold. I mean, I've had thousands of colds and never have I woken up and been a big cockroach. So that seems very strange to me that Gregor would just be like, it's a cold. Um, I'm anxious to hear what your thoughts are tomorrow because tomorrow we will discuss these sections shortly just so I can get a good gauge if you understood what we read and to answer any questions you guys might have. Make sure you're annotating and answering on your packet because remember, I will be looking at these. And we're going to go ahead and stop here today. And I would like you to continue reading The Wretched and the Beautiful. I'm actually finding it quite humorous and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. We will also discuss what you read through that packet tomorrow. And then we will continue on from 9. If you guys have any questions, please email me. I'm on campus. If you need anything or you're having any troubles, I can definitely run down and help you when needed. I will see you guys tomorrow. Be good.